So this time, I want to discuss the Mirror of Erised.
Oh,
Yes.
I don't know what this is.
You don't know what this is?
Oh, well, I'm picturing.
Wait, do you?
Yeah, I am picturing a mirror actually now. I don't know if there are multiple mirrors in the series, but so you would look into it and you would see what you most desire or want in life, right?
That is the Mirror of Erised.
All right.
Yes. Yes. So it's a very ornate mirror, very tall mirror with clawed feet and a gold frame, created in the late 1800s. Nobody really knows how it got to Hogwarts, where it came from, but it's there by the time the series starts.
Just hanging out.
Yeah, right. And it shows you the thing you most want, or as Dumbledore puts it, the deepest, most desperate desire of our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And he also kind of points out that, the happiest person in the world, it would just be an ordinary mirror. You would just see yourself as you are. But that's, unlikely to happen to anyone, I think.
No, humans always want something more.
Exactly. There's always some desire you want.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So say the name one more time for me.
The Mirror of Erised.
Erised. Okay. Yeah, let's learn about that meaning.
Okay. I will talk about a few things about different characters that we hear about what they see in the mirror. So Harry, he kind of is trying to avoid the caretaker Argus Filch, and he pops into a deserted classroom as he's walking around in this invisibility cloak, and he finds the mirror, and in it he sees. Do you remember what he sees?
I think he sees his parents.
Yeah, exactly. He sees his family, and what's cool about this is, he never, he hasn't seen them since he was a baby. And he, at this point in the series, he doesn't have any photos of them, but what he sees is accurate to what they look like. And also, his extended family that shows up there too, who, he also may have never met or hasn't seen since he was a baby. They're all accurate to what they actually look like.
Okay, because it's a magic mirror, not, a hallucination or something.
Right. Yeah. And then, the next night he brings Ron with him. And do you remember what Ron sees? Or can you guess what you think Ron would see?
Well, for some reason, I'm picturing him seeing himself like winning a Quidditch game or something.
He sees himself as head boy, Quidditch captain, holding the Quidditch cup.
Yeah.
Basically, he sees himself as the best of his brothers. So we talked about in his episode that he always had to compete with, all his older brothers. So that's what he sees. And then when Dumbledore comes and talks to Harry about the mirror, Harry asks him what he sees. And he says he sees himself holding a thick pair of woolen socks. Do you think that's really what he sees?
I'm sure that's not really what he sees.
Yeah.
He's just got cold
Harry
feet.
doubts it as well. Well, it's funny because based on other, not the original series, but other writings and the Fantastic Beasts movies, we kind of know what he probably saw.
Oh.
And there's a reason why he wouldn't tell Harry, probably. In the movie The Crimes of Grindelwald, Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, he looks into the mirror and he sees Gellert Grindelwald, who was his best friend when he was young and whom he was in love with. And who ends up going bad. And they, that's a famous duel, famous defeat. Dumbledore defeats Grindelwald, even though, this was the love of his life.
Yeah.
So he sees him, he's still kind of holding this torch for him. And later it's said that maybe he's after he comes to terms with the guilt over his sister's death, that sometimes maybe he sees his family whole and alive and happy. So what you see in the mirror can change depending on how you're feeling and as your desires change.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. But Dumbledore also warns that it's very easy to get caught up staring into the mirror, and he says that people have wasted away. Pining for that desire, wondering if it's possible rather than trying to achieve it, or losing track of reality, or going mad, like seeing their desire but unable to reach it or achieve it.
Yeah, so you just spend more and more time in the mirror where it's easy to access.
Yeah, and it can be dangerous that way.
Yeah.
Which is why, Harry keeps going back night after night, wanting to see his family,
Yeah.
And finally Dumbledore realizes this and joins him and tells him he's going to move the mirror and please don't go looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the quote that he says then. He says, "It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. Remember that."
Yeah. So he goes and he hides it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And does it come back into the story at a later point?
It does, yes.
Yeah.
So he doesn't hide it somewhere else. He does, but he uses it for another purpose, which we will talk about. But I did want to kind of put in here a quote that J.K. Rowling has talked about Dumbledore and him cautioning Harry this way. She says, "Dumbledore's words of caution to Harry when discussing the Mirror of Erised express my own views. The advice to hold on to your dreams is all well and good, but there comes a point when holding on to your dreams becomes unhelpful and even unhealthy.
Yeah.
Dumbledore knows that life can pass you by while you are clinging on to a wish that can never be, or ought never to be, fulfilled. Harry's deepest yearning is for something impossible, the return of his parents. Desperately sad though it is that he has been deprived of his family, Dumbledore knows that to sit gazing on a vision of what we can never have will only damage Harry. The mirror is bewitching and tantalizing, but it does not necessarily bring happiness."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a very interesting magical object, this.
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of mysterious also in that we kind of don't really know how it showed up at Hogwarts.
Right? Yeah,
Why
happened?
is it there? What does it do at first? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, cool.
So let's talk about the name.
Yeah.
The Mirror of Erised, Erised, which is desire spelled backwards, as if reflected in a mirror.
Uh-huh. Okay, there it is.
He's like, I should have known that one. Yes, so that's as simple as that. It's desire backwards, Erised.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an inscription on the top of the mirror that is Erised stra eru oit ube kafru oit on wosi.
Okay.
Which, if you put that backwards and rearrange where the spaces are, it says, "I show not your face, but your heart's desire."
Oh, okay.
So it's right there on the mirror. It tells you what it does if you have the ability to determine that that's written backwards.
Right.
It's a reflection.
That's a real tricky one, too, because the way... So she changed where the spaces are to make it sound more like Latin or something.
Right, exactly.
That's a really cool little hidden Easter egg.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Nice. So the word itself doesn't show up anywhere else in your research. It's literally just desire spelled backwards.
Yep. It's just desire spelled backwards. Yep.
Okay. But done in a mysterious way, a reflection.
Yes.
That's cool.
Appropriate for a mirror. Yep.
Yeah. 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 And a switch up, because most of the other things that we've talked about on this podcast so far are derived from mythology or Latin or some other name she's heard. But this is a trickier way that she came across, a different way that she created a name.
Exactly. It kind of sounds like it should be like Latin or have some other meaning, but
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It's just a cool word that actually looks like it could be another word when it's spelled backwards.
Yeah.
So let's go back to what happened to the mirror when Dumbledore moved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he uses this mirror to protect the Philosopher's Stone. So you remember we talked about the Philosopher's Stone, and I told you that, there was another object that I deliberately didn't mention in relation to it. This is it.
Here it is. Okay.
We're talking about it. It's the Mirror of Erised. So what Dumbledore does is he charms or bewitches the mirror so that only someone who looks into the mirror and wants to find the stone but not to use it will be able to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically meaning if their heart's desire is not to, use the stone, but just to find it, then, they're trustworthy enough to have it, basically.
So, yeah, he's added a charm to kind of add a second, the mirror would have shown Voldemort this Philosopher's Stone if it had not been bewitched with a charm to say, no, there's a second requirement here that you have to want it and not want to use it on yourself or for bad purposes, or
basically your desire for it must be pure. pure-hearted kind of to actually get it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And that's how Harry ends up with it, right?
Exactly, yeah. So, like Professor Quirrell looks in the mirror and he sees himself presenting the stone to his master, to Voldemort, but he can't get it. Whereas Harry looks in their mirror and he wants to get the stone to keep it away from Voldemort. He doesn't want to use it at all. And so he sees himself putting it in his pocket, and suddenly he feels it in his pocket.
That's some David Blaine magic right there.
Yeah. Ooh, all smoke and mirrors. Yeah. Literally mirrors.
Nice.
So I just wanted to close with saying, J.K. Rowling did give a little interview about what she would see if she looked in the mirror. Mm-hmm. And she said she had just had another child when she saw this. So she said that she thought she'd probably see herself as she is, and that she might also like to see her mother alive again, and hope that, quote, there'd be room over her shoulder to see a scientist inventing a cigarette that would be healthy, and a particular journalist being boiled in oil.
Oh.
So she had a little vindictive streak there.
Right.
She wants to see herself happy with her children and her mother alive again, but also, I want to have my vice without it harming me, and I really don't like that guy.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, luckily, it just shows you what you desire and doesn't necessarily always make it happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you see in the mirror?
I was just going to ask you the same thing.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
You first.
Well, this is tricky. I would be very curious to look into this mirror because I truly don't know what I would see. Yeah. I'd probably see myself, happy and independent and free and traveling and without worry, but I don't know what else. I would be very curious to see if there's something, that would show up that's in my heart that I don't consciously know about,
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of to glean some information.
What about you?
Well, I mean, it's easy for me to think I'll just jump on the bandwagon. I've just had my first baby as well. So I probably would see myself getting a little bit more sleep in the mirror.
Get rid of those dark circles.
Yeah, that's why we don't do this in video form. Yeah.
So you don't have to shower or show, baby puke on your shirt. No,
exactly.
I'm just
kidding. Yep. Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah, but that would be an interesting kind of form of cognitive therapy almost to kind of look in the mirror and see what am I desiring today, and really, I wasn't expecting that kind of stuff. Well, cool. Well, I'm curious to hear what our listeners think that they would see in the mirror. So I'm going to put a call out. If you, first of all, subscribe to the Potternyms podcast so that you can listen to all of our future episodes, but also head over to our Facebook page or comment on Instagram what you think you would see in the mirror. You can find us at Potternyms.
And if you want to get a little more fun content and you'd like to help support the podcast, please head over to patreon.com/Potternyms and become one of our patrons. We'd love that.
And don't forget to rate us and share with your friends.
Well, until next time, I'm Al.
And I'm Erik.
And this has been Potternyms.